Hi, this is Alan Beaulieu, president of ITR Economics. I'd like to talk to you today about a question that we've been getting a lot. It's about the V, as in victory. When people hear us talking about the V, it brings up a lot of questions. It brings up questions that, how can it be a V? I want to talk to you about that. How can there possibly be this rebound that will see the economy snap back? Well, that's not really what we're talking about. Well, so we're going to talk about that. And what about, things like when Mr. Bill Gates speaks and he talks about how this could take a long time, and others who talk about years, and why are we looking for things to come back quicker? Well, I just covered that in Friday's April 10th webinar. So you can go to our website about that, and you can get a lot more detail. But basically, it comes down to when you look at the past and you look at the present. In the past, you look for serious incidences like this. You look how people have responded after crises, after terror, after fear, because a lot of this is about fear. And then you look at the economy and how it has responded and how people have responded. You can draw certain conclusions. Then you look at the virus and how that's tracking, and you look at CARES Act, and you look at the Federal Reserve Board. And I think you walk away with a different conclusion than a lot of people who say, well, actually, they sound like Eeyore, Winnie the Pooh's little friend. Well, it'll never get better. It will. And we call it the V. Now, the V is in the rate of change. It's not always in the data trend. Let me give you an example of that, all right? If you look at our forecasts for GDP, either as an ITR subscriber to the Trends Report, as somebody who is following us as an insider, somebody who's participating in the webinars, you've seen that. For those of you that haven't, just picture a V, and the rate of change in the economy is going to plummet. And then it's going to come back, and it's going to come back and look like a V, not like a W or a misshapen U or something like that. Now, how can that be? It's because it's a year-over-year comparison. It's not because we're calling for a snapback in GDP itself. When we look at the third quarter of GDP and the rise that we are forecasting, that second quarter to third quarter rise is actually milder than what we've seen for each of the last 4 years. And it's a little better than what we saw in 2015. And in case you don't remember, 2015 was certainly an off year for the U.S. economy, especially for U.S. industrial production. But there is enough of a lift from that second quarter to third quarter to give the 312 rate of change and a 3-month moving average some upward movement. Now, the V is in the rate of change. The 3-month moving average doesn't look like a V. Now, in the fourth quarter, we have another rise in GDP, and that looks like the fourth quarter of 2009 when we were coming out of the Great Recession. So if we're right, and we certainly believe we are, as we look at leading indicators, there's a whole host of them, and as we look at the things that we know how to do and we put all the pieces together, it seems like the fourth quarter will be up too. So we go back to coming out of another really tough time. That'd be the fourth quarter 2009, and we apply a case like that. Now, for the year overall, yes, it's going to come in below 2019. It can't help but come in below 2019, but it will be on the way up, and things will continue to move up as we go forward. Now, another big question that we get is, what happens if we're in our stay-at-home, stay-in-place, can't get out of the house mode for a long time? Well, that's a bit like how long is a piece of string. Not sure what a long time is, but what if we have to practice this social distancing through July? Well, I hope you're subscribing to the ITR's Trends Report so that you can see us talk about that if it goes on that long. That could have an impact on our thinking, but it doesn't look that way, does it? It doesn't look that way because we have 7 Northeast governors starting to make plans for releasing folks so that we can get the economy going again. And that doesn't count New Hampshire. New Hampshire's governor is also talking about it, just not as part of the group of the Northeast. And then we have California, Oregon, and Washington governors talking about reopening their states as they go forward. So the governor of Pennsylvania is taking point for them. And then we find that the governor of California is taking point for the folks on the West Coast, and they're talking about opening it up. And that's a good sign. That begins to suggest we're not going to be staying in place through September or July, as I mentioned earlier. Things are beginning to look like the ice dam is breaking, and that's a good thing. But that's not to say that we expect that retail sales will come zipping right back. No, that's not the case at all. We're looking at a seasonal rise in retail sales, and a seasonal rise runs from March to December. I think everybody knows that. That seasonal rise that we're forecasting for 2020 is milder than normal. And that's going to stay mild through the rest of this year. From the trough to the peak, it's milder than normal. And we're going to see the December 312 rate of change, which means when we get to this year's Christmas season, we expect that the fourth quarter of 2020 will come in about 2.4% below the fourth quarter of 2019. It will be an off year for retailers, but it's still a seasonal rise. It's still, it's still a positive trend in that we're not forsaking the seasonal rise. It's just going to be very mild. So the V does not mean that consumers come snapping right back. The V does not mean that we expect everybody's going to run out of their houses on May 4th and just rush to the stores and restaurants. That's a concern for some folks. They thought maybe we were thinking that. No, this is going to be, some states will release folks in the economy at different times, and some folks will rush right out, and others will be slower to move out, and others will be even slower than that to move out, just like there are early adopters and late adopters and everybody in between. But as it works out, it does feed towards upward movement in GDP. It does keep the seasonal rise going for retail sales. And it does mean that the second quarter trough for GDP is looking pretty good. The rate of change, V for victory. If you want to follow us, you can do so for free. You go to our itreconomics.com, our website, and you can look at the trends report, and there's a mechanism there for getting 90 days free. And if you don't see it right away, a very helpful chat box pops up. That's Ann. She's just a wonderful lady. Ask her. Just tell her you'd like the 90 days free. All right. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in person again someday. Thank you.